Rumor was the death of the technology sponsor led to conflicts with new management at the laboratory, resulting in the inventor just disappearing or just walking away and never returning. What was happening? Here's what Wikipedia presently reports 70 years after the rediscovery of the thorium chemical reactors in 1998. After World War II, uranium-based nuclear reactors were built to produce electricity. These were similar to the reactor designs that produced material for nuclear weapons. During that period, the U.S. government also built experimental molten salt reactor using U-233 fuel. The key thing is here, and I'm going to advance this along a bit, is in 1968, Nobel laureate and discoverer of plutonium, also thorium and a few other items, was Glenn Seaborg, publicly announced to the Atomic Energy Commission, of which he was chairman, that the thorium-based reactor had successfully been developed and tested. It worked. It was a larger rendition. It was the second phase of technology that was at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. Now, I'm going to give you an image of Glenn Seaborg because he's going to pop up later. Here's what Glenn Seaborg looks like. He runs the Atomic Energy Industry or Commission. Who does he report to? Just to show the gravity of what we're dealing with in this investigation. Well, he reported to President John F. Kennedy. And a bullet later, in November 22nd, 1963, he then reported to the 36th president, Lyndon Baines Johnson. You'll see again some of these images later. In 1973, however, the government shut down the thorium-related nuclear research. Wikipedia says 1973. They actually killed it December 31st, 1969. They pulled all funding from it, and the thorium chemical reactor that had been operating for 5 years was just shut down at midnight. 73, when they mentioned this, when paperwork and everything disappeared, as well as the equipment that disappeared behind the laboratory wall. Now, here in Wikipedia, they said all this happening, here's the key thing, was an excusable mistake. Excusable mistake because they were citing incompetence, whatever. When you deal with government, they say, well, you know, dumb things happen. But nothing intentional, just, you know, things screw up. Was that the case? Well, only after the technology was rediscovered does the public learn the inventor was fired 25 years earlier. The system ended in 73 because Alvin Weinberg was fired. What's stated here, nuclear physicist Alvin Weinberg, who was director of Oak Ridge and primarily responsible for the new reactor, lost his job as director because he championed the development of safer thorium reactors. He kept warning about a China syndrome with the other technology he had created. He is the father of the light water reactor. But that was only supposed to be for the military, naval ships. He wanted this thorium chemical reactor for industry. He warned if they went with the light water, there'd eventually be an accident. It would damage the industry. They felt he was wrong. In fact, and here's a picture of inventor Alvin Weinberg, born 1915, passed away in 2006. Again, I'm showing these pictures because they're going to pop up a little later in this introduction. When he was asked about this, Weinberg was found after 25, 30 years, and they asked him, what happened back then? He said, well, Congressman Chet Holyfield was clearly exasperated with me, and he finally blurted out, Alvin, if you are so concerned about the safety of reactors, then I think it may be time for you to leave the nuclear industry. I was speechless. But it was apparent to me that my style, my attitude, my perception of the future was no longer in tune with the powers within the Atomic Energy Commission, the AEC. Here is the inventor's antagonist, Chester Holyfield, born in 1903, passed away in 1995. Again, I'm showing you these images because many of them are going to pop up in the near future when we get into why I got involved with Ayn Rand. By the way, this was the most momentous thing Chester Holyfield ever did in his life. This man who was a clothing salesman with only a sixth grade education when he was recruited in as a congressman and was elevated to the most powerful person in Washington, D.C. This was the most momentous decision he ever made. The father of nuclear industry and the creator of the molten salt thorium reactor. Well, here's his book. It came out 2 years after his death. He died in 95. It came out in 98. Not one word in this about how this clothing salesman, who's called the master legislator and nuclear salesman, this clothing haberdasher with a sixth grade education, he fires the father of the nuclear industry and not one word of it in this book. Well, that's just the beginning of what was went to work investigating the disappearance, let me back that up, of the geothermal atmospheric liquefied thorium energy technology by first tracking down both the inventor, the inventor's antagonist, and then researched their entire 20th century lives, which happens to be the period of time Ayn Rand will pop into this, as I'll explain later why. So, years of research and analysis. As of 2022, I've downloading or archiving to date close to 20,000 magazine articles, periodicals, videos, Freedom of Information Act requests involving the 20th century. I've got about 102 gigabytes on my hard drive. Then tracking down and purchasing scores of out-of-print books as well as ones that are still in print. And this is just some of them here. Trying to follow the trail of these two key individuals, the inventor and the antagonist. I was surprised when my research compelled me to begin investigating Ayn Rand through all her writings and bios for reasons I'll explain to you in the next few minutes. And those are just some of the books and articles I've had to pour through with Ayn Rand. Now, the one we're going to be focusing on in this 8-week workshop is this, because there were many threads, many links to things I have been looking for and found, thanks to the work of Ann Heller. So let's get back to this. Energy from Thorium. It was the Energy from Thorium Foundation that contacted me in 2011, asking me if I could spend a few hours investigating this. It's because of the worldwide energy patents and other things I've accomplished over time and deciphering a lot of secrets within the energy industry. So let's look at this Wikipedia again. So, first priority, I needed to find the